here. I'm Laura Cerutti. I am project manager for the Street Smart campaign with TransOptions.
I'm Ryan Fisher, and our service area is Hunterdon County with HART.
And I am Will Yarzab with the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority. Thank you for coming to this session.
Yeah, so thank you everyone for coming out today. I know most of you do work here in Newark, but thanks for coming out and just taking the time to learn a little bit more about the Street Smart campaign. I really want to keep this as informal and conversational as possible. We are a pretty small group, so feel free to jump in, ask questions, and start some conversations about what's unique to maybe your police department or just some unique pedestrian issues or concerns in your community. As you can see on the tables, we have a PowerPoint printout, so that's for you guys to jot some notes down and follow along with the presentation. It is the exact replica of the slides here, so just take this all in and just feel free to ask any questions that you may have along the way. So now I'm going to turn it over to Will, just if he can talk a little bit about who NJTPA is if you're not familiar with the organization.
So again, thank you very much for coming today. If you don't know, the North Jersey Transportation Planning Authority is the metropolitan planning organization for the 13 northern counties. That is our region, and we handle about $2 billion in transportation funds, and we bring all the partners together to determine where that money should be spent. The Street Smart program came out of that. It's a very small part of the many things that we do here. We do have some brochures in the back that you can grab if you want to learn more about it, but when I was a police officer, I wish I had known about the organization because it can help you when you need some infrastructure changes as well as safety programs like this. So, as you see, we have representation from each of the 13 counties. We also have the two large cities of Jersey City and Newark, DOT, Port Authority, Governor's Rep, Citizens Rep, and New Jersey Transit. And again, that board will determine where money is funneled and where to best meet the needs of our region. One of the things we handle are the Local Safety and High-Risk Rural Roads Program, which has to date awarded $164 million for high-impact safety projects. So again, in your jurisdiction, in the town you live in, if it's not where you work, if there's an issue, you may want to bring that to our attention, bring that to your county representative, whether it's the freeholder, county exec, or some other official that's on our board, to see if that should be put into the pipeline to be studied and determine if we can help in some other way.
So Brian and I are from two of the 8 transportation management associations here in New Jersey. Depending on where you are from, there is a TMA that is serving your region. As Ryan said, HART services Hunterdon County, while TransOptions serves Morris, Sussex, and Warren County, and we do have some towns in Union County, Essex County, and Passaic. But if you look at this map here, you can see that there are different TMAs throughout the whole state of New Jersey that can help with projects like this. So if you don't know your local TMA, I urge you to reach out to them. Really what we are is we're just a resource for improving mobility, sustainability, and roadway safety in the state of New Jersey. So we're going to start off with understanding your campaign. We're going to go through each step of how to run a campaign, and we first have to start with understanding it, but we're going to go through the planning phase, the launch phase, the kickoff, and then running your campaign, and then how to wrap it all up at the very end. So starting off with understanding your campaign, we need to know what exactly the Street Smart program is. It is a public education awareness and behavioral change campaign, which is behavior change is a very important component of the Street Smart campaign. It really is the goal behind the whole program. The campaign was created to help reduce the amount of crashes involving pedestrians in New Jersey because New Jersey has been designated as a focus state by the Federal Highway Administration. Newark was designated a focus city. I have here that in 2015, New Jersey ranked 15th in the nation in pedestrian fatalities, but that's from the Governor's Highway Safety Association. And I believe that a more recent report says that as of 2016, we're 17th in the nation. So it looks like we are coming down in the ranks, which is something that I think showing that the program is working, although we can't really comment on what's going on in other states at this time. But our pedestrian crash rate is nearly double the national average. So that is really why the Street Smart program was created. The numbers, they're not just numbers, they translate to people. Nearly 6,000 pedestrians are injured and 139 are killed annually in crashes statewide. Again, if you think about those as people and their lives being changed by these crashes, they're pretty staggering numbers. And from 2011 to 2015, 765 pedestrians were killed and more than 17,000 were injured. And that really does equal out to 2.4 deaths one death every 2.4 days and 11 injuries every single day. So the goals behind Street Smart, again, I'm going to keep emphasizing this and coming back to it, is changing behaviors, changing pedestrians and motorists' behaviors to reduce, again, the crashes, injuries, fatalities here in the state of New Jersey. We accomplish that through education, educating both motorists and pedestrians about their roles and responsibilities for safely sharing the road together. It's important for both pedestrians and motorists to know that they do have a role and they do have a responsibility when they're using the road, and they should be following, the laws and the life-saving signage that is out on the street for them. And then increasing enforcement and awareness of police enforcement. And increasing enforcement of pedestrian safety laws and roadway users' awareness of police department's effort and the police department's concern of pedestrian safety.
And one of the things we can't emphasize enough, although we're going to show you the program in its entirety, if you were to take on a full campaign, you can make your own. The best part about this program is you can fit it to suit the needs of your community. So whether that's more education than enforcement, whether it's more enforcement than education and outreach, you determine that, so you can really pick and choose. But we want to let you know what we're doing so we can get some evaluation information when we do a complete campaign.
That's a great point. And just to piggyback, we've done 7 campaigns, and every single campaign is different. Every service area is different, and customizing and making it unique is a large part of this campaign, as we'll see.
Yeah, just to add to that, I think that one of the best things about this campaign is that it is working with each individual's municipalities and police department specific needs. So, one town might have a completely different pedestrian safety concern than another town, whether it be just at a specific intersection where, there's a potential for a crash, or there has been a lot of crashes. I think that this campaign is working because it is going into the local level and working with police departments and towns and empowering them to take on a pedestrian safety campaign and address what's going on in their community. But this really is the basic structure of a campaign. Again, as Will said, you can really kind of structure it however you want, but a full campaign would have 2 weeks of a pre-campaign, which would include surveys. These surveys just mostly ask about pedestrian behavior, what people tend to do when they're on the roadways, what do people see others doing when they're on the roadways, and also trying to gauge the knowledge of pedestrian safety laws. And then intersection observations is when you can go out and actually just observe an intersection for a couple hours and count the behaviors of from pedestrians and drivers, and seeing what exactly is going on in that area before the campaign even starts. So then from there you can go into a 4-week campaign after you do your surveys and intersection observations. A campaign typically consists of press and media, education, outreach, enforcement, and then signage and materials, as you can see in the marketing materials that are placed around the room here. After that, you can do a post phase of surveys and intersection observations in order to gauge the impact that the campaign had. Did people see the signage? Are you more aware of police activity and police concern of pedestrian safety? Do you know the laws a little bit better after the campaign has wrapped up? I will mention that if you are going to do a pre-campaign survey, a pre-campaign evaluation phase, it is important to kind of keep that quiet because you don't really want the public changing their behaviors or responding to the survey how they think you want them to answer. So It's just important to, keep in mind, if you're going to do a pre-phase, just kind of don't send out a press release and kind of keep it quiet.
So when you're bringing those partners together and organizing this, you want to let them all know, we want to keep this all amongst ourselves, so to speak. Of course, the local government, police department know about it, but we don't want to start putting out signs. We don't want social media. We don't want to be talking about it really until that survey is completed.
Yeah, of course, like the town officials and police department could totally know about the campaign. I'm just talking about like the public and your residents and community members. Okay, so we'll move on to planning your campaign, which is step 2. I do want to start off by saying that there are funding opportunities for the police departments that are available. They do fund $55 an hour in overtime, as well as marketing material reimbursement. On the New Jersey Division of Highway Traffic Safety's website, there is a application template that you can follow along with. They make it fairly easy for you. You do have to put in 3 years of the most recent crash data into that grant, and I can go a little bit more into detail about crash data a little bit later on. You have to estimate how much money you're going to need for marketing materials, and just be aware that there are police departments do have to report on their activity and put it into a SAGE application. So if you're familiar with that process, just be aware that there is a reporting component of the HTS grant. There's 2 different pots of money. If anyone's interested, I'm happy to take more specific questions about the HTS funding at the end of this, but basically there's the state and federal funds. They both have an April 30th deadline, but their grant period do vary by a couple months. So you just have to find out from your local HTS rep who, which pot of money you'll be applying for, state or federal.
And if for some reason you have missed that deadline, certainly have a conversation with your Division of Highway Traffic Safety representative, because sometimes they can help you in that area.
And we do want to stress it is optional. I mean, again, Hunterdon County, smaller service area, we have never had any of our municipalities apply, police departments apply for a grant. They were able to do everything that we needed for the campaign.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but the police chief has said, this is our job. We have to do this task. It's not something extra, so we don't need the grant. It's part of our operating program.
So when you're pulling your campaign together, you really have to decide who should be involved and who's going to take the lead. Is it going to be a police department effort? Is it going to be maybe a school-focused effort? Is it going to be a town-wide effort? And making sure that someone is designating roles and that everyone knows their responsibilities in pulling this campaign together, whether it's someone who is really good with social media and can take on that part of the campaign, if it's law enforcement, and if they can really devise an enforcement plan. We'll go a little bit more into enforcement further into the presentation. But it's really just important to know who should be involved and making sure that everyone is on the same page. And also having a timeline and making sure everyone has their contact info is also important.
Because as we go through this, at times you may say, wow, there's a lot to this, but and Laura and Ryan both really emphasize this. You want to break it down into small pieces and give all of your partners a piece. And the more people you can bring into it, the much easier this will be and the much more successful it will be.
I think it's also important to, and Laura and I from the TMA world, we are the project lead for our service area, and I think it's really important to establish who is going to be the project lead. Don't do everything, but you need somebody to delegate, because if you don't have that person you're looking to, it can be a lot overwhelming for sure.
Yeah, someone who's definitely pulling the campaign along and making sure that all the milestones are met along the way and that it's being coordinated well. So we're going to talk about a little bit about crash data. So when you're considering your town, looking at crash data is very important. Are there trends in your downtown? Is there an intersection where there's been maybe a fatality, a couple fatalities at one spot? Where are those hotspot locations throughout your community? But I think, especially for law enforcement and for municipal officials, it's important to think about maybe crash data isn't telling the whole story. I've heard from plenty of police officers that we've had a couple crashes at this location. It might have been kind of fluke crashes, but over here, there's going to be a fatality one day. The speed is really heavy. There's a lot of activity. We see it all the time. So maybe it's really important to target the areas where you can possibly prevent a crash, which I think is even, I believe in being more proactive about an area and enforcing a certain area is better than reacting to a crash. So trying to be proactive to prevent, a life-changing situation.
And we'll get into it at the end, some of the education aspects at schools, but we hear it all the time, not just at the school level, but throughout the municipality. Near misses don't count. They're not reflected on the map.
Yeah.
So we're trying to prevent.
And then also, when you are planning your campaign, try to decide what marketing materials will work for your community. Is it posters in the window? As you can see, there are posters throughout the room in here. Is it a couple banners, like maybe across, a fence somewhere downtown, or a community board? Where would street signs be placed? And also the tip cards, local businesses and local downtowns. And those are really great places to bring your marketing materials because they are getting the pedestrian foot traffic, and a lot of those local business owners can sit out there and just say, like, yeah, I know right over here I see people outside my window trying to cross here. It's really difficult. So I can't stress enough how much local downtown businesses are so important for getting this campaign moving along and helping to increase the visibility of it.
We just kicked off a campaign in Westwood, and the traffic sergeant there was amazed at the response he's receiving back, input from the community saying, thank you for doing this, and do you know about this location, about that location? So you're really going to continue to open up that dialogue between the police and the community, which I think is a tremendous help.
And I think it's a great opportunity for just building community relationships between the town, the police department, and the residents, and also the local business owners. I'm just going to go through the town that I had really quickly as an example. So maybe some of the things that I had, you'll say, aha, like that actually, we have something just like that in our community. I didn't think of that earlier. So the town I chose was Madison, New Jersey. That's where I'm from. The culture is, I would say it's more of a high-income community, and it has a big commuting culture, train right into the city. State 124 runs through there, but there's also local roads like Kings Road, Rosedale, and Woodland, where there is a lot of pedestrian activity, and also where drivers tend to get big cut through for drivers, and there's pretty high speeds there. Local police, English, and there's a good Spanish-speaking population in the community. The downtown, I would say, is active. A lot of small businesses, bars, there's coffee shops, a lot of small kind of boutique kind of stores, hair salons, things like that. Activity centers, the YMCA at the train station, the library. Madison also has Drew University, Fairleigh Dickinson, and College of St. Elizabeth, so those are always really good targets. Local press, we have the Madison Eagle, also tap into Madison, and a couple, I think like the Daily Record and other larger publications cover it. As a TMA, if we were running a campaign in Madison, we would be reaching out to the schools and the chamber and the local businesses, putting up and taking down the signs. Usually it's DPW. In some smaller communities, you might actually be the one with the zip ties and the signs, putting them up around the community. To distribute materials, you can look at, maybe high school clubs are a really good. I know a lot of high schools have a volunteer requirement these days, so this could be a really great activity for them to get involved in. The TMA and then other volunteer organizations in that community. I also know Madison has a walking club, so they'd be another great resource for helping us pass out the materials that you see around here. Do we have access to a digital display board? I'm not sure. That's a question I can ask the police department. I know that there is a digital display board outside the middle school, which is on State 124, so if they could put a message on there, possibility. Where could you place a banner? There's a park. A lot of people jaywalk around there. Again, a lot of high-speed drivers. Probably a fence at the park would be a really good spot for a banner. Businesses for coffee sleeves and coasters. There's 3 bars in town, and Drip Coffee, that's a local coffee shop. And any community day events. Every October, the first week in October, Madison has Bottle Hill Day. So that is a town-wide event. It's a town-wide fair, so that would be a really good opportunity to promote the event. So now that I went through mine, I'm going to turn it over to some of you because I want to hear a little bit about what you came up for your community, and I'm going to ask to start with one of the three over here to share what they wrote down.
They told me they were all anxious to give us.
Yeah.
They were chomping at the bit on us.
And if you couldn't answer any of them, some of them, we can maybe even work through it, or just maybe that doesn't apply to your community, and that's okay if you want to skip a couple, but we want to briefly go through and answer some of these questions with us, and we can talk about what's unique to your community.
Wyckoff in Bergen County. Personality, commuting town. We have commuter buses. A lot of people walk around. Stay-at-home moms that drop off to school, drive through town. We have State 208, which is really not a concern. Local roads, county roads, Franklin Ave, which is one of the big county roads, which would be our focus point that runs right through the center of our town. Local police, we would reach out if need be for enforcement to our county police for assistance if we empower if need be. Language, diversity, English, mix, how would you describe our downtown? Active daytime. The joke is like after 8 o'clock we roll up the sidewalks. It's very quiet. But it would mostly be focused during the day when, on Franklin Avenue. We have, it's called the Business Triangle, shopping center, local town hall, community center, and main crossing on Franklin Avenue is where everybody's to get one side of town to the other. We do have the library, the town hall, the YMCA, all within that business triangle, so that would be the focus. We have local press. Our town is very big on their website, local Wyckoff Patch they call it, as well as local papers or state paper, county paper. Responsibilities pretty much fall under me on all those questions, with the help of the chief of police, our patrol officers, and the township administrator. DPW would help us with signs. We've already gotten materials from Will, which once we launch the campaign, we would go out, work with the Chamber of Commerce, and distribute everything. Marketing materials, like I said, we have variable messaging boards throughout town that we can put in strategic locations. Be able to place banners, no problem. Shopping centers, like I said, we distribute everything out, and one of the big things is social media. That kind of drives our government, our representatives, the mom web pages, dad web pages, students, everybody take that to voice their complaints, so we can focus on social media.
And you have a great relationship with the schools there? You do a lot
Yeah, we have a very good relationship. Our schools are kind of hidden away, so there's really not much. There's no busing in our town.
Okay.
A lot of parent drop-offs.
Any walking?
Some walk, very minimal walking. Or we mostly be focusing on the summertime in the downtown. Right across the street from the municipal field is the shopping center. So that's where the McDonald's, the Starbucks, all the local hangout with kids. Main cross is right there, right in front of town hall. So the government, our township administrator, or mayor sees all that, so they don't want us to focus mostly on
Sure.
Sounds like a pretty solid campaign you pulled together there.
slowly but surely, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right, anyone else over at the table?
I'm from Camden County, so I'm below your line here. So I'm not sure exactly who I'll need to reach out to if I can get with you afterwards. When you were talking about the transit authority, the TMA.
There's a cross-county connection TMA that services southern New Jersey.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll need to see if I can get a contact for that. Our town's 2.5 square miles. We're very similar to Wyckoff as far as upper middle class. We're made up of about 12,000 residents in our town. Our school system is also a non-busing school system, so it is walking. We do have a lot of parent drop-off as well. So a lot of what Sarge said about Wyckoff, it's kind of transferred down into South Jersey as well. Again, it's an upper middle class. We have a lot of commuting out, not so much commuting in. We do have the high-speed line, which connects us right to Philadelphia. We're 5 minutes across the river there. So we get a lot of people, a lot of professionals that will hop on the train, to head across into Philadelphia for work. We have a bunch of county roads that come through. We have a temporary state highway 41, which actually comes right through our main downtown Kings Highway area. And then it's made up of obviously a bunch of local roads after that. It's a local police department. We're a 21-man department, and our language diversity is English. Our downtown section is made up of a lot of unique boutiques and restaurants. So we get a lot of people coming there. Again, with the roll up the sidewalk, ours is kind of the same way. We don't have much of a nightlife. It is a dry town, so we don't have any bars in the area. The towns around us do, but our jurisdiction actually does not. So our downtown shopping is, it's BYOB stuff. Again, with the boutiques, we have a couple pharmacies that are down there, and a little area, ice cream parlors, things like that. So it is very family oriented down there, but a lot of times it is during the daytime. Weekends really does get crowded. But sort of the nighttime after that 9-10 o'clock, things are shut down and pretty quiet there. We do have an attraction that is downtown. It's the Hadrosaurus, the dinosaur that was found. So they have an erection that's a statue that was erected down there. Some people will come to visit, things like that. So local press is, the Haddon Herald, the Hatfield Patch, Hatfield Sun. Again, it's all local stuff. We do a lot of online social media things, through the township website, the police department website, etc. Our responsibilities, who would take the lead? I would say probably the police department would take the lead on it, falling under the realm of public safety. They would work closely with our borough administrator and public safety director. Whether or not the chief of police would take it or whether he would delegate it is my feeling that he probably would let it roll downhill there and kick it either to one of the lieutenants or one of the sergeants there. And I think they would take the lead actually in putting this thing together. Contacting the schools, again, we have a great relationship with our school district. We do have a business association that is made up of the local businesses. It's their own organization. They would actually be a real major part in helping out with, again, distributing materials, and just getting the word out and actually coming up with good ideas. Again, they're the ones that are seeing a lot of it besides us on the street. It's people in front of their stores all the time. So again, we do have a real good working relationship with them. We hold various events throughout the year where they're a big part of, the planning process and that. So, the open line of communications with that I think is super important. And again,
that business association, they typically email out to the local businesses pretty regularly. So they have like a monthly or bi-monthly newsletter that this is like, let them know that it's coming. So they are a fantastic resource that I've used in the past.
Yep. So that couples into, who would actually post the messages or how would you get it out? It would be through that organization. We do have other civic groups that, are made up, in our town. There's an over 65 club that does a lot of things, the Lions Club, and the Rotary Club. So those organizations would also be very beneficial, in being able to get the word out, as well as our fire department, can broadcast things. The police department, again, we have our own Facebook pages, Twitter accounts, things like that we would get the message out to everybody. Distribution of the materials, again, the business association, the civic groups. Our public works also would play a major role in posting some things up around town. We do have an area where we can put a large banner across our business district, which is visible, coming in and out of town. So I think that would be another good way to, to broadcast the event. The marketing materials, do we have a message board? Yes, we have our own. We would also borrow a couple from either neighboring towns, or ask the county for some assistance on that as well. So we could definitely put those boards up, again, through our main arteries coming in and out of town. And I think that would be real successful. Again, answering the banner question, yes, we would have access to that to put that up. We also have some local coffee shops. We have Starbucks that's there, and we also have 2 local coffee shops. So they would probably be more inclined to, to help out with the coffee sleeves. I don't know what the regulation would be for Starbucks, but the local guys would definitely, participate in the campaign.
Starbucks does support a lot of nonprofit efforts, so I've learned that from going to different towns that have Starbucks there. So they're pretty open to it, just so you know.
Yep.
And the mom and pop shops love the sleeves because they're free. So I mean, it's a free expense whenever you can offer something that they can actually utilize, and for their customers, it's a home run.
And then some other events just to kind of get the word out. We do host a fall festival every year. We have a craft fair, which probably, attracts like 20,000 people each day. It's a nightmare. But we just, shut the roadway down. They set up tents for 2 days. It really is a real big event, but that's another way where, if we were planning on doing something, is to get that word out through there, be able to set up tables or booths, to distribute materials and things like that, on those days. And our police department actually hosts a community day event as well, where we, put on local activities for the kids in the neighborhood. And again, it's another way that, we would, distribute materials just to get the word out as to, what it is, the fact that we do care about it, that it does need to be recognized, on all fronts. So those would be some of the events that we would, try to broadcast. I think that's great.
So one thing that your answers kind of got me thinking about, and I want to address, is that these towns aren't bubbles. So like, people who are living in your community are probably not working there, and people who are working there are probably not living there. So you are getting a lot of people who come in and out every single day, so it is important to hit those 20,000 people who are coming into your town for a craft fair, because they can take that behavior lesson and hopefully apply it to wherever they're going to be living, wherever they're going home to that day. Same thing with workers. Like, I know, like Morristown, there's so many people who work in Morristown, but not many of them live, but so many people are driving into there every single day. So it's, kind of important to consider, it's not just a resident effort, it's whoever is coming in and out of your town for whatever reason. A fair, if they're coming to, like, again, Morristown, I'll go back to them, they have a huge bar scene. So people come from all over, like, northern New Jersey, to go out in Morristown. So it's really important to work with the bars on an effort like this to increase safety. Does anyone else have other languages that we haven't talked about? I know we mentioned English and Spanish. Does anyone else have a different language? Because I know which languages have been translated so far.
Hebrew, Gujarati, and
Portuguese.
Mm-hmm. But we're looking to expand that. So if you have an organization or community group that can help us, we would love to do that. So also, as we talk about different partners, I know I've attended some meetings with other state organizations, and we're trying to bring the health departments into this more and more. Bloomfield did a great job with that. They actually really led the campaign for Bloomfield. It's certainly a health issue when people are being hit by cars and injured or worse.
Hospital groups. Anyone have a hospital in their community?
They're all types of, they want to do all kinds of things, and they're very helpful. Also, we haven't mentioned it yet, but on the WeStreetSmartNJ.org website, there's a resources page there that has all types of things you can use, whether it's the radio PSAs that you can play as morning announcements in the school. We have videos showing what to do and what not to do. There's just a tremendous amount of information there that you can use. I know, I don't know about the positive enforcement that Newton is doing.
Just to jump back, the website has everything you pretty much see here. So if you don't have to get creative or need some kind of graphic designer, everything is already laid out for you. Even social media posts, NJTPA has done a great job of having, so you don't have to type up your own tweet or anything like that. You just have to mostly insert, X town is conducting a Street Smart campaign. Remember to put your phones down while you're walking and driving. We have there's photos that fit right onto Twitter and Facebook already done for you, so that's already taken care of. But one thing that we did, my TMA did in Newton recently, earlier this month, was we had a positive enforcement campaign. So what that was is we worked with with two local businesses, a deli and a coffee shop, and we asked if they'd be willing to provide a discount to pedestrians who do a positive behavior. So someone uses a crosswalk, waits for the walk, puts their phone down before they start walking. The police officers in town were equipped with these coupons that were just business card size, and they went out and handed those out to increase positive behavior. We considered doing something like that for the drivers, but as you know, stopping a driver to give a positive thing to still evokes a negative emotion. So we mostly just geared it towards the pedestrians, and it was a pretty big success. I know Newton is pretty happy with how it went. I'm going to check in with them to see if they're done with their coupons, but just going to a local coffee shop and saying like we'll put your logo on it, and we had press come out, and the businesses were able to be interviewed by the press, so that brings more business to them and puts them more in a spotlight. So that is, this campaign does allow for some creativity with what you're going to be doing, and you have if you do coffee with a cop or anything like that, getting coupons for positive behavior, I think is a really important thing to do.
I know you mentioned the ice cream shop. We're going to home run that one.
Yeah, we've done it, but we've done that whole thing, but with the, the bike safety stuff.
Like a bicycle helmet.
Yeah, so all of that, we've done that
Walking
before,
safe,
but
yeah.
it's a great way now to transition that into the, this campaign.
Yeah, it definitely works pretty well. Anyone have any other unique kind of downtown situations, or you want to talk about?
Yeah, just a question about crossing guards
Okay.
in New Brunswick. I don't know how many, there's probably 30, 40, 50
Yeah.
crossing. That seemed like they had to stop something, and they kind of managed the intersection. And I don't know whether they would be a special group who could be brought up to speed, but
So they,
because they talk to these kids, and they all, Peter knows. Peter is, they have the school groups all walking together with
Walking school bus.
walking school bus stuff. And I'm sure it's brought it into schools, lots of schools. But taking it out to the guards themselves.
Crossing guards are definitely a very important group to work with on this, because they see a lot. I give them a lot of credit. I mean, it's a pretty dangerous job, I feel like, to do that. But I know Voorhees has crossing guard trainings, if that's what you are.
They probably, I'm
Yeah.
just not aware of it.
and
Yeah.
usually it's,
At Rutgers, so
manned
if you're-
by the police department, right? I know-
Yeah, ours is, some is the school district will hire them, but I know for us, they fall under ours as public safety.
Yeah, I know.
So every year they get fingerprinted, and then we put them through a training course. They sit down and watch a video. So they're there with us for about 2 hours, to get training on the year. And then each individual post is kind of unique in and of itself. So a lot of times at the beginning of the season, if it's a new guard, we'll actually attach a police officer with them to go out, just to let them know the ins and the outs, depending on if they're a traffic signal. Sometimes the signals aren't timed up exactly how you may think they are. So things like that, we'll just kind of go over with them, just again to reiterate their specific post. But if they've been there for years, obviously we don't need to do that at the beginning. But every year they do still get that mandatory, 2-hour training, from us, at the beginning of every school
Before they
year.
even go out, they attend the police academy training by us, mandatory
Okay.
couple hours.
Yes.
Each year, but ours through physical, so they would all do it.
Oh, yeah. The regulation level is actually,
That's.
yes, very, very,
20 hours.
I'm surprised.
Yeah, with.
Supervised for 20 hours?
Yeah,
Yeah.
each post.
And I know they're a great group, I think, to reach out to, and they can maybe have some materials, but from my experience, it's been, they have to concentrate on so much. So sometimes they can enlist maybe a local parent, hey, will you help us? You can hand these out to the other parents, maybe the tip cards and stuff, but I think it's a great group to interact with, that's for sure.
The other group, I was thinking that 6 million people ride the buses a year. And they're all on their phones.
Well, that's an absolutely great point, and I think we reference it all the time, but to make sure that everyone's aware, this campaign does have 5 key messages, and one of them is heads up, phones down, talking specifically about distracted walking and distracted driving. A lot of people forget that distracted walking is a real thing, and we see it all over, and that's one of the
I don't know if
emphasis.
we can put those in the buses.
Yeah, and
A
we
lot of
have,
buses, a lot of students.
we have worked with the transit and rail where we've had them on the
What's that?
inside, but
Yeah.
I agree, the local, I know Morristown, on their little shuttle bus,
Yeah,
they had, on the outside of the shuttle
Yeah.
bus, I think you said that's
Outside
still
the
there.
shuttle.
it's still there, I'm like, I'm not. Yeah, Rutgers is, I think, one, a very transportation, I mean, they have like such a big bus system that, and I know that they're very transportation conscious, so I think that that'd be a really good group to talk to about getting either some advertising in your bus or just some outreach at the buses, because the thing about transit is that like you step onto transit and you walk on, you walk off, you know, you're not, usually not just like getting into a car, so that's why targeting, I think, like, you know, local bus routes and things like that are really important parts of this campaign.
And I've reached out to them a few times, if you can help me with a connection, I would love to continue to explore that point. So I presented to PSE&G, one, just a small yard in Hackensack, and then to their entire safety group in Edison. And, you know, we've offered to them, listen, if you'd like to further partner here, whether it's getting the messages into the bill, on the bottom of the bill, or through their social media, so I agree. I know some organizations, I'm guessing both of you probably participated in a lunch and learn, so getting this out anywhere and everywhere is very important.
And it's just coming full circle back to the sheet. I mean, this is the importance of filling out the sheet so you can think of those creative ideas and start brainstorming well before you actually get out in the community. That's how you come up with innovative ideas all the time. Something that we've seen within our service area twice now is we selected a observation location and the crosswalk is almost completely gone or it's beat up pretty badly, and through connections at the county level and the state level, we were able to get those painted, repainted, restriped prior to the campaign. If you can do that in a perfect world, I think it's very important, because if you're going to have a campaign and you're telling people in the community, people visiting your community, to use the crosswalk, it's nice to actually have that crosswalk and look like it's a crosswalk.
And I know, like, for law enforcement, it's probably, you know, you're going to get someone to say, well, like, the crosswalk's barely that, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard that has been, yeah, so I would say the whole planning phase, you should probably start pulling everything together 3 months out, up until you have your pre-campaign phase if you're going to be doing one. But yeah, at that time, I think it is smart to just kind of take a look at your crosswalks, and if there's someone you need to make a call to, you do want to have your everything restriped.
Sure, signalized intersections, making sure the buttons work if there are buttons.
So launching your campaign, I think it's good to have kind of a marker of when the campaign is kicking off. So that could be a local press conference or like a press event, kind of like what we did in Newton with the positive enforcement. We made that its own kind of press event. But possible speakers you want to think about having, or possible attendees, would be a mayor, chief of police, a local freeholder who sits on the NJTPA board, possibly state representative if they're available. We were doing a kickoff event in Morristown, and we had a state representative actually reach out to us and say that he wanted to speak there. Representative from NJTPA. And another person to consider is someone from AMS or maybe a trauma nurse. We actually had a trauma nurse speak in Morristown and one in Summit, and they can really speak to the impact that these crashes do have on people and on families. You know, they have quite an experience with that. So they're really good at driving the message home. So if you have a connection with the hospital, you know, they're a really good representative to maybe bring on.
I think that's a great point too, because early on the slides we have all these different numbers and statistics, but I mean, you really become desensitized unless you're speaking to a particular experience. So I think it's a good idea.
And we've been fortunate enough on several of our kickoffs to have, fortunately or unfortunately, have people who have been personally affected by a pedestrian crash. The father of a college-age daughter who was killed in a slow-speed intersection, a four-way stop. We have another speaker, although we have not used him yet, who was personally involved. We had a lieutenant who lost his brother in a crash. So again, making it personal, because it is personal, is important. And hopefully people then will go home and have that conversation about it, and that's how we're going to change things, right? The more and more people talk about it and say, oh, I almost was hit the other day, or someone almost ran out in front of me and I almost hit them. Remember, this is what you have to do. Keep your head on a swivel when you're crossing. All of those things that we, as a parent, at least teach your child. So.
Okay, so now we're on to running your campaign. So these campaigns are a good amount of planning, but I would say once they're off the ground, they run pretty smoothly. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan, who's going to talk mostly about running the campaign.
So when we get to this slide, I feel as though we just covered a lot of materials, and we're not actually even running anything. We're just getting there. So I take a sigh of relief up here, and thinking back, it is a sigh of relief when you're actually in the campaign mode. So if we're looking at, if you're looking at the slide or the presentation behind me, we're selecting a location. This is a map that we created to show basically a scope of the community, the town that we're running in. And selecting, if you have a really large community, you're probably pinpointing a specific section of that town. If you have a smaller service area, you're trying to decide where you want to target and where you want to go with your materials and your messaging. Your outreach team at HART TMA, we have a staff, it's all hands on deck. Everyone is going, and we're just trying to assign them with a location, with the materials that they need and what businesses they're targeting. Tracking items, you want to do that throughout the campaign with all the materials, with all the tip cards, with everything you're giving out. It's good to keep a track of what you're doing. We'll explain that a little bit in the final report, but it's good to know how many people were able to be reached by the messaging. And then supplies, it sounds very simple, but we've been out there numerous times, and just having pens and a clipboard and some tape and zip ties if I'm putting them to a channel post. Just little things that just to keep in mind as we're going along.
So this was this is a way more involved campaign. This was Morristown. So of course, Morristown is very busy. There's a couple of different sections of the town. So this is a really large operation. Another town, Boonton, that we did recently, their downtown is set up, it's straight up the hill and then straight back down. So that was like one day, 2 people, that's all it took. But this here is a little bit more of an involved outreach plan. It did take 1 day, but this was hands on deck. We had a couple of volunteers helping us out that day, and we also had 2 volunteers from the Morristown Partnership, which is a business association. So they came around with us and helped out with us that day. But just wanted to add that for this slide.
And you can never have too many volunteers. So if you can attract high school students, if you can have seniors, if you can, you name it. The more people, the more information you're going to get out there, the more you're going to reach.
In South Orange, the Girl Scout troop wanted to do some handing out of tip cards, and it was for their silver badge. So again, all of those groups, until you reach out to them, you don't know how they can help you and how this is very important to them.
So this next slide, I think we touched upon it filling out this sheet, but these are just some target locations that we've used within our service area, and the TMAs have used. Restaurants, supermarkets, large employers. I think we stress and I emphasize, particularly because of my background with safe routes, but especially in a smaller service area, the school is the place to be, is the livelihood of the community. So targeting all of those students, you're hitting all of the parents. So if you don't only have 1,000 residents in the community and you're hitting almost all of them, that's a great place to target. Yeah, for sure. Running your campaign, just some ideas. So we've already touched upon locations, but some ideas in the top center. Again, we're back to the school. We put messaging at the school. Everyone's going to see it. This is a downtown. This is Langerville. It's downtown community. There's pedestrian. There's motorists. Route 29 runs across. Everyone's going to see that sign. So identifying locations that make the most sense, not just placing them randomly. And then the local businesses. We talked about, I think someone over here mentioned how important social media is. Giving the downtown businesses a shout out on Facebook. Thank you so much. Come down, take a beautiful walk, look before crossing, use crosswalks, and stop at Seddon's to see our materials. Gives them a shout out and some incentive to actually put out their items. I think it's been very successful.
So some of the ones up here from the TransOptions did was Coffee with a Cop. Newton has a pretty regular Coffee with a Cop program. So that was, we had a special Street Smart pedestrian safety version of it. Actually, right around Halloween time, so we had some Halloween safety tips and some glow-in-the-dark bracelets for the kids. A street team in Morristown. Street teams worked really, really well in Morristown. They don't work great in other communities, but that's where just a couple volunteers went out during lunch hour in Morristown, where the restaurants, small cafes are mobbed. So, you can just really just walk around and hand out tip cards and just be like, hey, remember to walk safely. But then in Newton, going to the local ShopRite, ShopRite allowed us to have a table and we just handed out some tip cards there as people were going in and out of the store. So just like an hour or two, is a really good way to hit a good amount of people.
And in the bottom left-hand corner, we mentioned the coffee sleeves, but these are really great, again, at the mom and pop stores because, as I mentioned, they have a limited supply, so that they're, they'll virtually hug me when I come in with the sleeves because now they're not paying for them, they're getting out the messaging, and it really is, it's great for all parties, so that's been great.
And as Laura has mentioned, on our website, all the materials, printable, print-ready format, and I guess, nowadays, the electronic backpack is the big deal. So you can get that message out. You don't have to drop off tip card to the school and they put them with the newsletter. It's electronic. So repetition with the message, again, like click it or ticket, that's how they've gotten their success. You want that repetition.
Some of the marketing materials, where in the town, placement is key. Where are you going to put them? Don't put them on a random fence, put them in a high traffic area, a lot of pedestrian, a lot of motorists. Whose responsibility? Again, we mentioned smaller surface area. A lot of times we're putting up we're zip tying, we're putting on a fence, you name it, tying knots. In larger communities, maybe you have a DPW you're working with, whose responsibility and who's going to get it done in a timely fashion. And creativity, we keep saying creativity, every campaign does something unique. So really, find that the spot that makes the most sense so everybody can own it.
Again, please share that with us. When you do something that really works well or doesn't work so well, let us know so when we have these sessions, we can forward that on to others. We stole the coaster tip from TransOptions in Morristown. They had done a coaster with the Morristown Police Patron Center. Great idea.
So again, social media, as we know, is huge. That's where everyone's getting their information. Social media now, you can target certain zip codes. So whatever your zip code is, you can actually go on and if you even put $5, $10 into it, it's a pretty low cost way to reach people. So you can, people, if they're in your zip code, if they're coming into it, they're having lunch. I've sometimes gone places and I'll get an advertisement for a place down the street. So you can do that with Street Smart. It's like, hey, welcome to whatever, welcome to Madison. Remember to walk safely. So social media is really good for that, that it's capable of doing that. But as Ryan said, definitely giving out a shout out to your local businesses, being positive on social media, being current, it's I think we'll talk about that in the next slide, but it's a beautiful day in, whatever town, take a walk. Remember to to be safe as you're walking. But one thing that TransOptions did in Morristown was, again, Morristown, very young crowd, a lot of bar goers. Again, it's a huge hub of the northern area of New Jersey, so a lot of people do come for the bar scene. And their St. Patrick's Day parade is huge too. A lot of people come out for that. Both families and the day drinkers are coming out. So we decided to give Snapchat a try, where we put on a Snapchat filter. So pretty much whenever someone takes a photo, that filter could pop up over their photo, and they could take a picture with that filter. So that was just, it got a lot of hits, and it actually was pretty simple to do. If anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to help. And it actually was not super expensive either, but just a different kind of creative, relevant way to address the pedestrian safety concern, especially with the drinking around St. Patrick's Day in Morristown. So.
Next, we're talking about education. again, at the TMA level, we're going into the schools, and I think it's really important for the police officers to accompany us into the school. And I think it's great when I'm telling them, and they, for the most part, listen, but it's nice to have a uniformed police officer there, someone that's walking in their community, that's a member of their town and their school. And when you say something, it means a lot more. At HART, we've designed a street smart storybook for kids. It's been great. We've made a distracted dojo walking. So like we have a cell phone, and we're talking about the importance of putting your head up and phone down. It's really important to do those kind of creative things. But who are you partnering with? The PE teacher in the school for sure. PTO, PTA, nonprofits, municipal, summer camps, and senior groups. We've done senior presentations as well. We've done senior Jeopardy, Street Smart Jeopardy. We've done a lot of different things. So again, you can make it your own, make it exciting, make it fun, and then people are going to remember and talk about it.
The running group, dog walking group.
The dog walking group, yes. We've done that again, yes. We hit the trout fishing community in Califon. So, I mean, you really can, again, in a small service area like ours, you can be creative because that's what's going on, and you can just apply it and twist it and make it work. So it's been great.
Whenever I'm working with towns and police departments, I try to ask them, what is, your town, what is unique about your town, and who should we be talking to for this campaign? Who hits a lot of people and has a large audience that we can promote this campaign?
And then it ties us into enforcement. Now, enforcement, there is a week of soft enforcement, and that is usually when police officers issue a warning, a tip card that we have somewhere around the room. Oh, it's on the screen right here on the right-hand part of the screen, and it just tells you about the responsibility of what you should be doing and what kind of fine if you continue that behavior. I think it's really important to have the soft enforcement because we've been doing this campaign, we've been educating, now we're giving them a warning and saying this is something you should totally, absolutely think about. Now, we talked about before, we worked in communities that we would go to week 2, be hard enforcement, and hard enforcement could be just more education. It doesn't have to necessarily be a summons. If you're using the grant, I think they call for specific numbers of how many summons issued. But in downtown walkable communities, sometimes it's best just to educate as opposed to, and then that's completely up to the town and who's running the campaign.
And those cards on the right you can get directly from Division of Highway Traffic Safety. And I agree, Ryan, because there have been towns that said, we are not handing out summonses, we just are not going to do that. But again, I think a motorist or a pedestrian who's stopped by a police officer, it's an enforcement action. It's going to create an impression on them. And we can hand them a tip card or the highway traffic safety card and/or positive enforcement if they've done something correctly. That's how you're going to make impressions, and we're going to change behaviors.
Yeah, and again, getting back to especially the police departments knowing their community and knowing their residents, and a week of warnings I think is important. Also putting out your variable messaging sign maybe that first week saying pedestrian safety zone, police are enforcing the law, something like that, just so people are not shocked if tickets are starting to be handed out. It's a good way to kind of warn people that this campaign is going on. There's also activities like the Cops in the Crosswalk decoy program. I know not all towns really utilize that, but Boonton was a town that really heavily utilized that, and they we had a press event around the decoy program, so they really got into that, and that was also a lot of good visibility. We had News 12, we had Channel 4 actually come out for that, the Daily Record, that got a lot of good publicity. But and then also for departments to be recording the data, it's really, so if you're doing the grant, you have to record the data and submit forms into the SAGE system for your grant reimbursement. But if you're not getting the grant, you just should consider recording data, keeping numbers, so we know at the end of the campaign, how many warnings, how many interactions, or how many summons were given out for pedestrian safety related enforcement activities.
And either, please follow us, share with us, through the social media, or when you're having an activity, let us know in advance. We can post it on our website. And after you've had it, whatever success you've had, please let us know. Again, we like to hear those things, and we will then promote them outside of our group.
And we developed a template for recording with the information that you need. I'd be happy to pass them out at the end of the meeting. I think they've been very helpful.
And I have some examples of the grant. Yeah, you have a question?
The day before yesterday was ticket or click it, or click it or ticket day, and 17,000 tickets were there statewide. And wondered what there was to learn about that. That's pretty clear because I stand there, they look down. In my time, they look down and they can see who it is. They pull out of the ramp, and then they just go over it.
It's similar to the cops in the crosswalk decoy program. That is where an officer, will dress in plain clothes, cross the street. If a driver doesn't stop for them, they radio to a officer who's stationed maybe up the road and say, this blue Subaru didn't stop for me, and then they're pulled over and then given a ticket. So that's how we structured it.
Most people know about clicker ticket.
Right.
But they don't know about this. This is too new.
And that's why we're all here.
Yeah,
we're hoping this will be quicker.
It's really intruding into whatever, distractions they got going on.
And the law, I guess it's been within the past 10 years, yield for a pedestrian, stop for a pedestrian. So I know when I talk to people, there's a lot of confusion about who's right, who's wrong. They have to stop for me as a pedestrian. Well, you can't just walk off the curb. The signalized intersection is the
Cars don't just stop on the
right.
dime.
It's exactly right. You still get the attitude of people will actually just, as they're walking and coming, they don't even stop, they just step out.
Yep.
And really, I think it's 120 feet is the distance that the car is supposed to be able to stop, for that pedestrian. So yeah, pedestrians need to be, again, it goes to educating everybody, right?
Yeah.
And it's just knowing, and listen, the rule of thumb though is, in a crash with a car and a person, the car's going to win every time. Right? So don't run the risk of, your life, by trying to prove a point to say, well, I was right, I should have crossed,
We have a speed demo on our website where down at LBI, we have the dummy set up and it would show at different speeds if the car could stop or could not stop.
Right, exactly.
I think that's why there needs to be an emphasis on education. I mean, with click it or ticket, you click it, you click your seatbelt. There's not a lot to learn there. Now, we're talking about different, pedestrian laws, I think, are very confusing for certain police officers, certainly for pedestrians and for cars. So unless we get education out there, then we can't expect different results.
Talk about going back to the Boston.
Well, yeah, it's funny. We had the big signs that are put out in the crosswalk, right, where it actually says "Stop for pedestrians." Some people will pull up to that, and there may not be a pedestrian in sight, and they will stop the car, and they will look, and then they will continue to drive. Yeah, it really, there is a lot of ambiguity in there and interpretation of things that, kind of gets mixed up.
A lot of people don't really know in this state what yield means. I feel like what is a yield when you ask people, they're like, it's kind of like slow down.
Yeah.
So I think with pedestrians, I think that the point of making it stop was probably so there is no confusion. You stop, because with yield, people are like, well, do I just slow down? But that's really given the right of way, to the pedestrian. But
and for the pedestrian to determine that, that car is far enough away, they can stop for me, or it's an NJT transit bus, or it's a dump truck. Again, it's totally judgment.
It is.
What's 120?
yeah, I don't know.
We always try to, again, when we do have encounters, we always try to tell people, get eye contact from your driver. You want to be able to stop, get their attention, look at them, get eye contact so they can see you, and wait for them to actually stop before you step off.
Watch them starting to slow down and coming to a stop before, we always try and tell people these little things. One thing that I have learned from some of our officers is that, we've heard from some police departments that, or I've just heard in general that, there's more of a crime problem, there's more of, a drug problem in our town. But when you do enforcement like this, it does really help cut down on any kind of crime activity going on in the community. These community enforcement efforts, it's like police are on the street talking about, make sure you use a crosswalk. Like, it's gonna kind of drive those, bad people out of your community. And I've heard a lot of that from police departments that I've talked to. So that's another added benefit to doing a campaign like this.
Yeah, well, yeah, because the other side to that is it's stopping all the jaywalking. And a lot of times if you do have a high, drug activity in certain areas, a lot of times those guys aren't using the crosswalks and waiting for the signs right, to allow them to walk.
Yeah.
So, you can kind of couple that if that's, what community you're
Yeah, and
servicing.
I had an officer recently tell me that they stopped someone for this campaign, and he actually had a warrant out, and he also had a restraining order and was going to the person's house, and they caught him, and this helped them prevent something that was huge. Not only did he get a pedestrian ticket, but he also it prevented a bigger thing, so it really helps cut back on crime.
Another great point you made, and we were talking about education, but the signalized intersection, we've been doing, I've been on observations where the person is waiting there and they're standing and they're waiting, they're trying to do all the correct things. They just don't know that certain push buttons have to be pressed. No, I mean, they are trying to do all the right things, they give up and they run across now. You know what I mean? So certain, just in each of these messages, making sure that everyone knows is on the same page. Otherwise, what are we doing, right? And then finally concluding our campaign, we had the goals before we got into the presentations, and now, following the presentations, are you documenting all the materials that were distributed? We talked about doing that throughout the campaign. How many individuals were educated? Doing that homework up front will save you time at the end. Warning tickets, summons, having templates, having all those materials done can really give you a snapshot of how successful your campaign was and how many people were educated.
And those final reports, we have done them with the help of consultants at our level at NJTPA. The TMAs have done theirs. They're on their website. We have them on our website also. It's an important document. We all seem to learn from it, and we again want to see, are we changing behaviors? Are we changing these crash numbers? We're not going to know by one campaign probably, but we want to see in the short term, is it effective? So where you're not doing a campaign or a final report, you may still want some of that information to see, well, it took this much effort, or we only need this many materials if we do go on and do a campaign. We're doing pre and post surveys and observations.
I guess mostly the highlights of what came out of the campaign,
Sure,
and what was put into it, maybe enforcement hours, like numbers like that, I think would probably be very helpful.
And just questions to ask yourself. Everyone, before they do anything, has goals. Were they met? Why did we bring this Street Smart campaign to our community, and did we succeed in doing so? Takeaways. We've had communities that have done one campaign and they liked it so much and they got such an impact and they want to hit a different area that they've done another campaign. You're not going to, and it's a quick cycle, a lot of information. You're not going to do everything you wanted in each campaign, but if the community really liked it, there's another opportunity maybe to go back and do it again. At the top right-hand corner of the picture, we like to leave a lead behind kind of with the 5 key messaging, again, for all the businesses that were nice enough to put something out, kind of as a thank you, and to know for next time, like, they were very helpful and, they were a pleasure to work with. So we give them something, something else. And I think it's important with the business community to say thank you, because they get out the most, the materials. It's not even close within the community. And then we were just talking about the final report and who's responsible for that. Are you going to do that? We, at the TMA level, have completed them on our own.
So learning, again, about your local TMA, I wish I had known about them when I was a police officer. They're a tremendous asset. We're also working more and more with AAA when either the TMA either doesn't have that program that you want, or because they are so busy, they're becoming more and more involved in so many towns, they can only meet the needs of so many locations. So, and then the hospitals, of course, also have safety programs. So, again, this repetition, get as many partners involved, and then you can cross-promote when another town is doing a campaign. Like Liquor Ticket, we'd love to see towns take this on twice a year, spring and fall. For LBI, we've done a campaign there every year now, and it's tremendously important down there because every week or 2 weeks they're getting a turnover of people. So again, we want to keep this ball rolling, and we can only do it with your help, but we want to work.